What is up, everyone? Welcome back to yet another YouTube video where I will be discussing this time roster changes in the South African scene. So without any further ado, I'm going to be getting right into the video. So first up, I'm just going to be discussing how I'm going to be, kind of rating the teams and kind of sharing my thoughts. So I've developed a rating system. So in this rating system, there's 4 criteria, namely fragging power, in-game chemistry, team experience, and winning potential. Basically just going to be assessing each team based on that, like kind of what their fragging power was before the roster change and now after the roster change. Is it better, is it not better? And then obviously with each of these 4 criteria, I've kind of given them a total allocation of 25, so 25 25 25 25 equals 100. And then I'm going to be obviously at the end you can kind of see the overall rating for the team. So yeah, without any further ado, we'll be getting right into the first team, and that is going to be Sinister 5. So they've taken out Shia and Lately, and they've brought in Triton and Deadshot. Now, for me, this is a very exciting move because, I mean, Triton and Deadshot, they're pretty new names to the scene. I mean, if you were gonna go a year back and ask anyone in the scene, have you heard of Triton and Deadshot before? I mean, a lot of people would go like, nope, never heard of them, don't know who they are, maybe seen them in a face, but other than that, nope. So it is cool that an org like Sinister 5, which is a pretty big org in our scene, has kind of taken the leap of faith on these players. They've seen the potential that they had in Rage Quit and, just said, let's go for it. Let's see where they can take us. And I'm liking it. Now, first up, just looking at the fragging power. So Lately and Sheer, they weren't strangers to the top of the scoreboard. They had the potential to always be at the top. They were putting up the numbers, and they definitely weren't cut due to them not being able to put up the numbers. But Triton and Deadshot, they just really have that extra oomph, that like mechanical aim and movement and everything. They've got the whole shebang. So I just think that the fragging power should improve a bit, just looking at how well they did perform within Rage Quit in the previous leg, obviously against the very best teams that we have to offer, because they did play in Prem. So you can kind of now look at that and say, wow, they were actually performing at a very decent level within Prem. So you can kind of say, yeah, if they can do this consistently against the best teams, then yeah, for sure, fragging power is going to be going up. That's why I've put it up just by 1 point, because as I said, I think the fragging power was pretty good before anyway. So jumping into in-game chemistry now, it's going to take a considerable dip just because this team has been together since the beginning of the year, obviously previous to the roster change. Now roster changes come in and you've kind of got a lot of chemistry that you've kind of now said, okay, we're going to be throwing that all away. We're going to be bringing in 2 new players, 2 new players that I've never played with Frozen, Chappie and Ruben before in a roster. So that is kind of a large part of the dip in the rating for me, and it's just going to take time to get them, up to the standard of like, yeah, this is how we play in Sinister 5, this is how we want you guys to play. They might need to adapt their roles a bit or how they play CS, it's all going to depend on kind of what Chappie, who I believe is the IGL of Sinister 5, how he's going to be kind of directing them and molding them to, kind of adapt to life at Sinister 5. So that is why I think it's going to take a bit of a dip, but obviously this is only short term, because as time goes on, then they'll get up to speed and then the in-game chemistry will definitely improve. Now getting into team experience, so this is also a big dip for me, because I mean, looking at Lately and Sheer, they had tons of experience, man. I mean, they've been around for such a long time, and now taking them out of the roster, you're losing a chunk of like huge experience, and you're bringing in 2 new kids on the block who've just had kind of their first leg in Prem now done. And that's not really a lot of experience that you're bringing in. You're not bringing them in for experience. You're bringing them in to kind of hope that now they can grow and develop within Sinister 5. So that's definitely going to be a huge loss. Now, we're getting into winning potential. So yes, I also think this is going to take a bit of a dip just because of looking at how well Sinister 5 were doing. I mean, they placed in the number 4 spot in this last Prem leg, and I think in leg 1 they also placed 4th. So I mean, they were putting up the results, and they were delivering the results rather, and they were really looking like they were moving at an upward trajectory in terms of their results. But now with the roster change, it's a bit of a shocker, and that will mean obviously that they're going to take time to kind of, as I've mentioned, with the chemistry and all, to learn how they want to play CS now with the new pickups, and that's just going to take time. And I think because of that, the winning potential is going to go down considerably. But also, this is only short term. I think give it a month or 2, and then you're going to see that winning potential definitely going up, as I think this roster definitely has the potential to, you know, easily slot into that top 5 ranking within the South African CS ranks per se, but it's just gonna take time. So yeah, my overall rating now for Sinister 5, it's gonna be a bit of a shocker. So they were at an 81 out of 100, which is pretty good, and now they've kind of lost about 10 points, dropping them down to 71 out of 100. But guys, just a quick disclaimer, this is short term, so this is kind of just immediately looking right after the roster change happened. How good is it? How bad is it? I don't necessarily think that this is a bad roster change at all. I think it's very exciting. I just think for now, looking at, you know, kind of the chemistry and experience, which were the big factors in this, that's kind of led to their decrease in overall rating. Now getting to the next team, we're going to be discussing Zion. So very exciting for me. They've brought in Malkis, and they've taken out Blue/Fisher, because Blue was playing for the start of the leg, and then he kind of disappeared, and then Fisher was subbing in for them, and obviously now Fisher has also left Zion for Omnius Gaming. So just hopping into fragging power, I definitely think that Malkis brings fragging power to the table. I mean, Zion, yes, they weren't lacking fragging power per se, but I just think now with Fisher going out and Malkis coming in, it's more sustainable for Zion, and this should definitely increase the fragging power, as Malkis, he just has that extra, you know, fragging power to bring to Zion. Then looking at the in-game chemistry for Zion, it is going to take a bit of a dip, but not too much. And the reason for that is because Malkis, actually before he went to Big 5, he was playing with, in Zion, and he was playing with Vaynant and Bam. So obviously there's going to be still that bit of chemistry there. He just hasn't played with Nexus or Kana. I don't know if he's maybe played with Kana before in a team. I can't quite remember. But for now, I'm just going to kind of go off of what I know. So I don't think he's played with either Nexus or Kana before. So the chemistry is just going to take a bit of a dip. But again, over time, as I'm probably going to say for the rest of the video, over time, that is going to improve. Just short term for now, it is going to take 1 decrease in the rating. But experience, this is a big one for me. It's going to be going up, and it's going to be going up by, you know, quite a bit, 2 points up to 21 out of 25, which is a pretty good rating. So Malkis, he's had a few legs behind him now, as well as been playing in teams such as Good Gaming, XD Gaming, and most recently Big 5. So he's played with a variety of players, and as far as I know, he's now kind of slotted into that IGL role. So now he kind of has that thing of, okay, I've played with a variety of players in different teams. I know kind of how to manage them, and I've been successful at doing that. So now he's slotting into the Zion team, and he's going to be the most experienced member alongside Nexus. So the experience will definitely improve if you're just taking him with Fisher, you know, because Fisher, not that he doesn't have a lot of experience, but he's only kind of been in Prem since last year, I think, for 1 leg, or I know that he was in Masters last year. So he's not got that much experience as Malkis has. And now just getting into winning potential, it's going to improve drastically, because now you've got a solid, hard-working IGL who's already kind of comfortable with the roster, or at least, you know, if you're taking the other 4 players, 50% of the roster. Now he's just kind of got to get used to Nexus and Kana, see kind of what their vibe is, how they play CS, and how he can kind of improve that and all. But he already has the needed firepower and experience to get the results, and I think overall, combine that with just the upward trajectory that Zion also have been moving at, I think their winning potential will definitely increase with this pickup, and I think it's an absolutely amazing pickup. just a little bit of a side note, I like kind of the move that he paid for them. He left for Big Five, which is obviously was a good move for him and for his career. And now he's come back, and Zion have kind of welcomed him back and said, like, no hard feelings, dude. We understand. I mean, Big Five is a bigger org than Zion, so 100% that's fine. And I kind of like that. But yeah, that is kind of going to be summing up Zion, and I think this is a very good pickup for them. Well, talking about Big Five, we're going to be getting into Big Five, and whew, sheesh. That was a pretty weak sheesh, I'm sorry. This roster, man. Well, okay. Basically just getting into obviously Big Five disbanded in the last leg, and now they've picked up a completely new roster comprising of Tianki, Custom, Tukbok, Lately, and Slayer. And I mean, damn, that lineup is just, oh, okay. I'll try and get into it and explain how highly I rate this lineup, because just looking at fragging power, it's there. Every single one of these players can be at the top of the scoreboard at any time, can pop off against basically anyone. Like that is why I'm rating the fragging power at the 23 out of 25. It's really just there. I mean, everyone should know these players, and it's just absolutely insane. Like to see all of these names in one roster. So I definitely think they've got fragging power. Looking at in-game chemistry though, it's not quite there. I know Lately and Slayer have played in Sinister 5 together before, so there's going to be a bit of chemistry. And then I believe Custom and Tukbok also have played in a team together before. I'm not quite sure on that one. I'm taking a bit of a leap on that one. But there's kind of fragments of chemistry with this lineup, so that's why I'm only giving it a 17 out of 25. Because I think, yeah, there is a lot of things that they need to work on in terms of chemistry, because it's kind of a brand new lineup. But also with them being in first div, I think it's the perfect opportunity to try and work on that, because I mean, you can kind of now make the mistakes against not the best teams, because it's only in first div. So it's really going to be the perfect opportunity for them to kind of now just iron out the mistakes and move on. Now getting into experience, I mean, I was so tempted to give them the 25 out of 25. And I definitely think out of all the rosters I'm discussing here, this is by far the most experienced roster. I mean, just looking at Tukbok and Custom and Tianki, they've all been playing in the comp scene since, just wait for it, 2016. I mean, 2016. It's basically been 5 years that they've been actively playing in the scene. I think Tukbok, he was playing last year, so I think it would basically be 5 years that these players have all been competing. And Lately and Sheer, they've been active since about around 2018. So I mean, all of these players, they've got all of this experience behind them. I mean, if you can kind of just do your own research and look at the teams that, I mean, the likes of Tukbok and Custom and Tianki have played for before, as well as Lately and Shah. I mean, they've played for, like big names, big teams. So honestly, this is by far the most experienced roster out there right now, out of all the teams in this video. So yeah, damn, I was very tempted to give them 25 out of 25. But now getting to winning potential. So with all the firepower and experience that this team has, you can't really go wrong. I mean, also with a leg in first div to properly iron out all the mistakes, it should really prepare them really well for Masters coming up in a few months, I think. And then also the ECA Season 37 playoffs, which they should be making, if I'm looking at this team, so I think this team should be doing really well, and they should be kind of going really far into some of these tournaments. I just really want to see them now play in tournaments, so my overall rating for them is 85 out of 100. And obviously there weren't any ratings before, because this is a completely new roster, so I can't really discuss what they had previously. So now getting into the next team, it's going to be Ekasi. So they've picked up Glitchy and Raid, and they've taken out Tianki and Badger has actually retired for the foreseeable future from CS. So rip for Badger. But yeah, getting into fragging power, it's definitely going to be going up. I mean, if you're just looking at the potential that Glitchy and Raid have, and you're just gonna kind of compare them to Tianke and Badger, I think they're kind of one-upping both of those players in the fragging power regard. And I think that it's just a very exciting additions to have now to Ekasi, and they've just got this kind of oomph about them, or this extra thing about them that I think they're really going to be elevating the fragging power of Ekasi, and I think that's also definitely something that is needed for Ekasi. Now, just looking at in-game chemistry, obviously it's going to be going down, because as far as I know, Glitchy and Raid haven't played together with any of these players before, so kind of the same scenario that Sinister 5 has, so obviously their in-game chemistry is going to be taking a bit of a dip, but obviously also same thing, give them time to adjust, and then that rating should be going up again. Now looking at experience, so yes, Ekasi have lost a lot of experience in Tianke, which will definitely not go unnoticed at all, but I think with Raid coming in again, well, not coming in again, but coming in, it's definitely gonna help them out in that department. As just for those of you that don't know, just quick background on Raid. Obviously he actually played for, I don't know if it was Energy Academy or Energy, but he played for some Energy roster, and he actually made it onto HLTV at the age of 15 years old. So I mean, this guy has been like an up and comer, or was an up and comer back then in the scene, and now he's kind of come back into Comp CS, and now we're gonna be looking at what he can obviously do. So it's gonna be very exciting. But now getting to winning potential, I think this roster definitely has the potential to get better results going. And I think it will be a breath of fresh air for the likes of Hual, Slashlord, and Gemini. Having two new teamies to play with, it can be very interesting and very exciting, obviously, because now you have two new personalities to look at, and they're like completely different players to Tianke and Badger. So it's going to be very interesting to just see how these players play. And obviously how the IGL of Ekasi, being Lichlord, can kind of now look at these players and kind of integrate them into the Ekasi system. So I definitely, just going off of, you know, the just the names of the roster, I'm gonna be upping their winning potential, just because I think the potential is there for them to get better results going, but obviously it's gonna take time. But yeah, for sure the winning potential is there. So the overall rating will be going up by about 5 points, and that pretty much sums up what I think of that roster change. I think it's a very exciting roster change, and probably just behind Big 5, and kind of on level pegging with the Sinister 5's roster change. Okay, now we're going to be getting into GAX. So they've brought in Gods Undead, which I believe is an absolutely amazing pickup. It's pretty much a steal, and they've taken out Zon, which unfortunately kind of had to go, because you kind of have to make space for a player like Gods Undead. So he's obviously going to be increasing the fragging power. I don't think I really have to explain that too much, because he has played with that ex-royalty, now Big 5 roster, and then they disbanded, and he was putting up the numbers, and he was IGLing for ex-royalty for a while, but then he kind of got off of that, and when he did, and when he got onto kind of, you know, that more entry support, well, not entry, but kind of more that supportive role, trade, fragging, and all of this, he really stepped up his game in terms of frags. So yeah, fragging power definitely going up. Just no disrespect at all to Zon. I don't think he's a bad player. I just think if you're looking like a player like God's Not Dead, it's going to be going up in virtually every department. Except in-game chemistry, which is now the next one that we're going to be discussing. So obviously, God's Not Dead hasn't ever played with any of these players before, to my knowledge. So there is going to be a bit of an adjustment for him, and I don't think the chemistry is immediately going to be there. It would be quite weird if it's immediately there. So for that reason, I think it's going to be going down a little bit. But as I've mentioned before, it's only short term. But now, getting into experience, I've kind of discussed it a bit. He's been playing at the top with Royalty, ex-Royalty Big 5 for the past year or so, and that is just a lot of experience. I mean, playing against the top teams, getting results against the top teams, and being in an arguably top 5 team for the better part of 4 to 5 months is quite an achievement, and you're going to be bringing a lot of experience with you to GAC, and I think that is absolutely amazing for GAC, because I mean, they don't have the most experience, and I think just by picking up God's Not Dead, your experience is going to skyrocket, and that's why I've got the +3 rating going in terms of experience for them. So now looking at winning potential, I think if you've got God's Not Dead into a roster, your winning potential is obviously going to improve. It's just going to be up to what can he do with this roster, because I do think he's kind of been picked up to kind of nurture this roster and kind of spot out the mistakes and help them and kind of grow with them and kind of get this team to the next level. I think a pretty good goal for them would obviously be top 10. That would be the best way to measure their success, and I definitely think that they have the means to do so with God's Not Dead. It's just going to be a matter of time to see if they will be actually doing that or not. So that's why their rating will be going up considerably. And yeah, that is gonna be GAC. Now getting into Omnius. This is a bit of a controversial one for me, and I'll kind of explain why. They've brought in Fisher, not at all controversial, but they've taken out Vulcan. So Vulcan, he joined Omnius Gaming. I don't know if all of you will remember this, but obviously now the Dynamic roster was actually a part of Omnius. They left for Dynamic, and obviously Omnius had to pick up a team, and they picked up Roa, Rise of Anarchy, and Vulcan was in that initial new Omnius roster, which is now a very old Omnius roster. So he was kind of the like one of the core members, and now he's been benched as far as I understand things. So that's a bit controversial for me if you're looking at it in that regard. So just looking at the fragging power and looking what Vulcan was doing for Omnius for such a long time, I mean, I still played against him not too long ago last year, and this guy was insane. Like, he was putting up the numbers and pretty much not solely carrying Omnius, but really you have the feeling that if he wasn't there in particular rounds, that you were probably winning the rounds. So I always knew when I was playing against him, you need to take him out at the beginning of the round. Otherwise, him on the AWP, it's going to be very difficult to kind of deal with him. So yeah, that is definitely going to be taking down the fragging power a bit. But I mean, Fisher still has that fragging power, so it's not going to go down too much. Now looking at in-game chemistry, and a few of you are going to be looking at it and going, 22 out of 25. Well, are you crazy, bro? Like, what's going on? And the reason why I'm saying this is because this Omnius roster, before Vulcan, went together for what feels like almost a year and a half, or even closer to 2 years maybe. So they've been playing together for such a long time, just ironing out the mistakes, working on things, improving, and just taking it to the next level. Now looking at experience, I mean, it's not going down too much because Fisher still has the sufficient experience in this roster. Vulcan kind of had the same experience as Fisher, so it's not going to be going down too much. I've maybe been a bit too harsh to let it even go down with the rating. I should have probably kept it the same, but yeah, not too much to really say on experience. And then winning potential, it's going to be going up, and you're probably also thinking like, dude, you basically like downgraded Omnius with every single criteria, and now you're upping them with winning potential. Like, what is this? But basically what I'm thinking is that Omnius have obviously now, this was a very difficult roster move, as far as I understand, for the players. So now you've kind of replaced such an integral player in your roster, and there was obviously a very good reason for that. And now there should just be, more positive vibes around this roster of now, okay, cool, let's look to the future, let's try and rebuild, let's try and be positive. And I mean, I think Fisher has that extra something that he can bring to the Omnius roster, because I mean, he's played with multiple players before, whereas most of the Omnius roster, they're very limited because they've been together for such a long time. So that is definitely going to be something new, and I think that is going to be that needed factor for Omnius to kind of improve. And I actually see this roster achieving more than the previous roster with Vulcan. So overall, the rating is going to be going down, but that might just be for the short term. And it's also for me, just because of the Vulcan now leaving or being benched, but he was their AWPer, and there's not really a clear AWPer to replace him. That's also just a bit of a question mark for me, and why their rating is going to be going down a bit. bit. So yeah, that is gonna be the end of the video. Sorry for the long video. It was just a bit of a few things to discuss in terms of, you know, what each roster change will mean, and there was so many roster changes that I had to get through. So I do apologize for that, guys. But again, thank you so much for watching the video, and I really do appreciate it. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a like. I would really appreciate that. And if you want to see more of this content, definitely subscribe to the channel, as I'm trying to push out the kind of discussion content around the whole South African CSGO community. So I would really appreciate it if you can subscribe to the channel if you are enjoying this content, because I mean, we are really close to 200 subscribers, so that is very exciting. But yeah, guys, I'm not going to be keeping it any longer. I hope you have an absolutely amazing day, evening, morning, whenever the time is that you are watching this video. And yeah, cheers, guys.